Rome's most powerful man, Julius Caesar, woke up on the morning of March 15th, 44 BC, not knowing that this would be the last day of his life, because his closest friend Brutus had already dug his grave in the darkness of the night. That morning, in his magnificent villa on the Palatine Hill, the heart of the Roman Empire, Julius Caesar awoke with the dawn as always. The 56-year-old imperator could see Rome's 7 hills from his window. This city was his creation, his dream. He had conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon River, destroyed the Republic, and declared himself the sole ruler of Rome. But Caesar didn't know that. At that very moment, Brutus stood in the shadows of his villa's garden. Marcus Junius Brutus, the young senator Caesar regarded as his spiritual son, who owed everything to him. He hadn't slept that night. The dagger in his hand gleamed in the moonlight. "Father," Brutus whispered into the darkness, "forgive me." Caesar felt an unusual restlessness that morning. Not because nightmares had plagued his sleep. Caesar never had nightmares. The source of his unease was his wife, Calpurnia. Calpurnia Pisonis was one of Rome's most beautiful women and, as Caesar's third wife, the mistress of the palace. But that night, when she woke up screaming in their bedroom, Caesar had never seen her like this. "Gaius!" Calpurnia had cried out, using Caesar's real name. "Blood. Blood everywhere. You were dead in my arms." Caesar tried to calm his wife. "Just a dream, my dear. Rome's master doesn't die so easily." But Calpurnia insisted, "No, this wasn't an ordinary dream. The gods are sending me a sign. Don't leave the house today, please." That morning, as Caesar ate his breakfast, his most trusted adviser Marcus Antonius arrived. Antonius's face was tense. "Caesar," Antonius said in a low voice, "strange whispers are circulating in the Senate. Some senators are talking about your plans for kingship." Caesar frowned. "Which senators?" "Cassius Longinus, Casca, and—" Antonius hesitated. "And?" "Brutus." Caesar's golden cup fell to the table with a harsh sound. "Brutus, that's impossible. He's like a son to me." But the concern in Antonius's eyes was real. "Caesar, perhaps today we should postpone the Senate meeting." "Never!" Caesar jumped to his feet. Caesar never backs down before anyone. That day there was an extraordinary crowd in the Forum at the center of Rome. The people had heard that Caesar would go to the Senate and had gathered to see him. But there was a strange tension within the crowd. A soothsayer emerged from the crowd and blocked Caesar's path. The old man cried out with a trembling voice, "Caesar!" Beware the Ides of March. The Ides of March, March 15th, today. Caesar approached the soothsayer and said with a mocking smile, "Old man, the Ides of March have come and gone. You see, I'm still alive." The soothsayer looked at Caesar with frightening eyes. "Yes, they have come, but they have not yet passed." These words struck fear into Caesar's heart, but his pride overcame it. He continued walking toward the Senate building. The Senate building was one of the most magnificent examples of Roman architecture. White marble columns, gold inlaid walls. When Caesar entered, all the senators stood up. But this time, not out of respect, they had risen to set their plans in motion. When Brutus saw Caesar, his heart broke. Caesar sent him a paternal smile and placed his hand on his shoulder. "Brutus, my son," Caesar said, "today I want to discuss something important with you. I am thinking of giving you the governorship of Gaul." These words devastated Brutus even more. Even at the moment he had come to kill him, Caesar was offering him gifts. When the meeting began, Senator Tullius Cimber stood up and began pleading with Caesar for his brother's return from exile. As Caesar was about to refuse, other senators also joined Cimber and surrounded Caesar. That's when their plan began. Casca struck the first blow, to the back of Caesar's neck, but the blow wasn't fatal. Caesar turned around and shouted, "Vile Casca, what are you doing?" Then the daggers began raining down. Cassius, Ligarius, Cinna. One by one they threw themselves at Caesar. Caesar tried to fight, tried to push away the attackers with his strong arms. But then he saw him. Brutus. His beloved Brutus was approaching him with a bloody dagger in his hand. Caesar's world collapsed. He stopped fighting. He let his arms fall to his sides. "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus." These words would become history's most famous words, the cry of a father when betrayed by his son. Brutus, through tears, delivered the final blow. The dagger pierced Caesar's heart. Rome's master collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue. He breathed his last beneath the statue of his own enemy. But the story didn't end there. After Caesar's death, Rome was bathed in blood. Brutus and the conspirators had thought the people would welcome them as heroes, but the people loved Caesar. Marcus Antonius gave an unforgettable speech at Caesar's funeral. He read Caesar's will. Caesar had left all his wealth to the Roman people. "Is this a tyrant?" Antonius cried out. "The man who left his fortune to the people, who put the gold he brought from Gaul into the treasury." The people went mad. Brutus and the conspirators had to flee Rome. But the most bitter end was Brutus's fate. 2 years later, at the Battle of Philippi, he fought against Marcus Antonius and young Octavianus, the future Augustus, who had avenged Caesar. When he lost the battle, Brutus threw himself upon his own sword. His last words were, "Caesar, forgive me." And Caesar's spirit perhaps did forgive him, because Caesar's death marked the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. Caesar's dream, Rome's dominion over the world, came true after his death. Julius Caesar was declared a god after his death. Divus Julius, Divine Julius. Temples dedicated to him were built in Rome, and today, 2,000 years later, his name is still remembered. Kaiser, Czar, Caesar. All these words come from his name. Perhaps if he had known that morning that he would die, he would still have gone to the Senate, because Caesar knew that the path to immortality passed through death. This story teaches us that sometimes the greatest victories are born from the greatest betrayals. Caesar's death became the beginning of the empire that made Rome dominant over the world. And every March 15th, the world remembers Julius Caesar. The Ides of March became not just a day of death, but the day a legend was born. In the end, Caesar achieved what he had always sought, eternal glory. His name became synonymous with power itself. Emperors for centuries would take his title. His military tactics are still studied in war colleges today. The irony is profound. Brutus killed Caesar to save the Republic, but his act destroyed it forever. Caesar's heir, Octavianus Augustus, would become the first Roman emperor, fulfilling Caesar's ultimate ambition posthumously. Sometimes the gods write history in blood, and sometimes the greatest men must die to become immortal. Julius Caesar's last night was the end of one era and the violent birth of another. The echoes of that March morning still resonate through history. Every leader who has ever sought absolute power, every betrayal between friends, every moment when ambition meets mortality, they all trace back to that moment when Brutus raised his dagger and Rome held its breath. Caesar's final lesson was this: true power isn't in the throne you occupy, but in the legacy you leave behind. And 2,000 years later, we're still telling his story.